Welcome to another web development video where I show you how to make modern websites using HTML5, CSS3, and a little bit of JavaScript. In this video, I'm going to talk a little bit farther about the head section of the website. Now, in the last video, I talked about just generally how to set up a web page. And we went over the document type, and you can see here on the screen there's the HTML tag, which includes two things, and one of those is the head and one of those is the body. So in this video we're going to talk about all the stuff that can go in the head and the things that you should and probably shouldn't even be worrying about in 2020, which is when this is recorded. So the main thing that you want to get into the head are the things that we've set up already, most boilerplates, or like in this in the last video I showed you how to just type in HTML and hit tab, and you get sort of the boilerplate head and body code. It's going to give you all the important things, so you need to declare the language. But in the head section, you need to declare the character set, which UTF-8, from what I understand, includes basically all the languages in the world, so it's sort of a universal character set, and will allow you to put different things on the page, different languages on the page. And then you have a title, and then I showed you last time how to use the link tag to be able to link to an external asset. Now, it's inside of our website folder, but because it's not actually on the page, it's considered an external resource or an external link to a resource. So maybe I'll cover a little bit more about how to import some things from third parties, so not on your website or on your server, but going out to the web and pulling it in from somewhere else. But I wanted to cover a couple more meta tags that you might want to include, and also how to make a favicon. Favicon. They're these little things up here, like the Mozilla one here. That's what that looks like. So we're going to make one of those, and then it's going to show up here, and I'll show you how to do that. Let's start with a couple of other meta tags that you should have in your page. And one is going to be, and we write a meta tag like this, so it's meta. And then we have something called the name, and the name is going to equal something, and the content is going to equal something. So what I like about HTML and the web in general is it's pretty self-explanatory. You do need to know English, and so that can be a limitation at times. But if you do have a basic understanding of English, then it can be usually self-explanatory. So the name is sort of the type of content that we're going to put in here, and then the content is the actual value of the content that we're going to use. So the first one I want to go over is the author. So the meta name is going to be author, and then you want to put whoever it is. So for me, you know, this would just be my name. If it was a company, you would want to put the company in there. If you are making a website, or if you're looking at someone's website and you want to find out who did it, who actually created it, this is a good way to put that in there, to say, hey, this is my work. Nothing in this head section is most likely going to show up on the page. It shouldn't show up on the page. It's in a sort of a hidden section of the website, and that's why it's called metadata, because it's outside of your actual data that you're pulling into put in the body. The second tag is also a meta tag, and the name of that is going to equal description. And I'm getting this off of the Mozilla Developer Network website. I mean, I already know it too, but if you want to go back and you want to sort of see all these things, you can see how they've set up the name and the content. And you can see here that the description is just a description of whatever's on this page. What is this page about? I don't know. It's just basically describing what's on the page. Now, the one thing that it that it can help you with is in search engine results. So you don't want to keyword stuff this. You want to make it an accurate description of the page. But the place that it's going to show up is right here. This right here is going to be the description. Most people say that it doesn't affect search engine results, but it can't help to put your keywords in there, especially if that's what your page is about. Hopefully you've architected your content and your page so that you're going to naturally be using keywords throughout the content. If you want to learn more about keywords, that's more like social media marketing or search engine optimization, which is a part of web development, but it's a little bit later part. It's not necessarily things that you need to know at the very, very beginning. But know that when you do a search, like this is a Google search, it's going to show up right here, so you can see the doc site provides information about, and you can see right here that whenever they look this up, that it actually highlights those keywords. So they'll tell you that the description doesn't matter, but I think that it does matter, and you should just go ahead and put a good description. If nothing, they say just because when I look, even if Google doesn't put that as part of the search ranking, when I'm looking as a real human user and I look on there, if the description matches what I'm looking for, or it has the keywords of what I'm looking for, it's going to stand out to me. So this is your opportunity to talk human to human with a user who is searching on a search engine. And it's the same. Not every search engine gives you the same amount of characters, so you want to limit your characters. I don't know. I've heard 255 is the character count. I would say 165, so like a tweet. Keep it in that range. But that's what we're going to do. So we write meta name, description, and then the content is going to equal whatever the value is that we want to put there. So this is my awesome website. It's the first I've ever created. So this would be if someone did a search and my website came up, this is what would be there for that page. Now every page, so just like we had multiple pages here, we have an about page. Now your about page can also have its own metadata, right? So we're just going to save that, and we're going to come over to our about page. We'll copy and paste that in. This is obviously not going to change because I'm still the author, but here maybe this would change. Learn more about me and my coding journey, right? Something like that. And so if someone found my about page in a Google search, then this would show up. Okay, so the title would be about my new website, and then this one, the title would just say my new website. Now this is the title here in this section right here. That's where the title would come up, and then you would have the description here, and then you'd obviously have your URL here, which for the index page would just be whatever .org, .com, .net, .whatever. And then for the about page, it would say whatever your base URL is / about.html. So that's how this sort of all works together when the user is coming to your page or interacting with your page from the search engine. So those are two of the key components to the head section. There are a lot of things that people can add into the head section. And let me just, let's just see. So remember how we go to a website and we can click on, well, this isn't meant to be an Apple advertisement. Let's find a place. Okay, so view page source. And then we look at their page source, we can see here that the head starts here. Okay, so they're pulling in some things here. There's a script up here. There's a link here that they're setting apple.com as the baseline link. But you can see they also have the character set UTF-8, just like we did. They have some different things that are going on here. So a bunch of links of different things. There's a meta name of viewport. Now this one is going to be really important too, and I'll show you how to put that in, because this one right here says that on a mobile device you want everything to sort of get bigger. So it's going to change the initial scale of the website, because if this doesn't happen and you open a website that is it's not meant to be open, it's for a desktop size. If you don't put that on there, then it's not going to sort of scale up, and everything won't get bigger for a mobile size. It'll look like you're really far away. You've probably been on a website like that that's not mobile optimized, and it looks really bad. So this meta viewport is really important. In fact, we can just copy that. I've never used the viewport fit before, but we can just copy that and put it in our own website. This is a pretty common tag right here. So we need there we go. So this means that our site will scale, whether it's for responsive design. And you really should be doing responsive design and thinking about that right outside the box. So we'll put that, but that goes into the head section as well. So we see here's the style sheets. So we have a bunch of different style sheets that they're loading in. Here's the title of the page. And then we have a bunch of other things. So this is for analytics. We have their description here. So you can see the description for the page. And if you searched and apple.com came up, you would actually see this as their description on the search engine optimization. This is all for down to this point. This is all for social media, and so that's a whole other sort of thing that you can add, so that when someone shares your page, it pulls the data from here and sort of fills it in for Facebook or Twitter into whatever their card format is. Another style sheet that comes in, this is for JavaScript here, and then we end the head section. So you can see that even with a website like apple.com, you know, the richest company in the world, they still are putting the same things that we're talking about today into the head section of their document. And every page that you went onto would have that same structure. There's a head and there's a body. And now they're going to be doing some more complex things in the head section than you or I would if we're just building a little website for ourselves. But as you grow and as you add tools to your toolbox, you'll be using the head section more. Okay, so the next thing I wanted to show you is how to put Favicon, and that also goes into the head section. That's a link tag. You notice that I'm keeping the style sheet declaration. I like to keep it at the very end and just load everything in and then load the style sheet. So this is going to be link relative equals icon. It's a relationship, and so the relationship equals icon. And then we need to link it to some image. So a Favicon image is 16 pixels by 16 pixels. I would make it 32 pixels by 32 pixels just for retina displays, because on like an iPad or something that has a retina display, that's a high definition display. So if you only do 16 by 16, it's double the density on high definition, so it's actually going to sort of blur it a little bit. But if you make the image 32 by 32, then when it tries to double it, you'll have the correct size, and it also doesn't hurt anything. You know, going down from 32 pixels to 16 pixels won't make any difference on the image. The image will still stay clear and sharp. So what I'm using is Adobe XD. I'm just pulling out I don't know, just some PNG logo. This is not mine, obviously. This is from Wikimedia. But I have my canvas here set to 32 by 32, and then I just sort of position my icon inside that. However big you want it to be, if you want it to be, you know, small and have a lot of space around it, you can do that. Or you can put it right to the edges. And then all you have to do is export that. So whether you're using Photoshop or XD or Illustrator or whatever it is, you just export your canvas. I'm going to do it as a PNG, and I'm just exporting to my desktop. And when we come to our desktop, you can see my image is here. So it's pretty small, but we're also talking about putting it up here, right? So it's going to actually be a very small image. Where we're on the desktop. So let me just copy that. And then I'm going to go into the My Website folder where all of our website files are. And I'm going to create a new folder. And so a website is just folders and files, just like you see on your operating system. It's no different. And so I'm going to create a new folder. I'm going to call it Images. Sometimes you might see it as IMG. A lot of times with projects, I'll do IMG. It's a good habit to get into, to do some conventions like that, because you're going to see them. But also, if you think about it, when we write in the code, if you write IMG, that's shorter than writing IMAGES. And it may sound goofy, but you've just saved a couple of bytes. And remember that every byte that you add into the page is something that has to be downloaded from another place to the user's computer. So wherever you can save those bytes, you should just save it, especially when it doesn't lead to confusion about what it is. So IMG is just sort of a standard in web development for images. You can use images. Nobody's going to do anything to you. That 2 bytes is probably not going to bother anybody, but if you make those decisions consistently throughout an entire website, and if the website gets big, you can imagine that saving a few bytes here and there is going to add up to kilobytes, which is going to add up to megabytes, which is going to add up to gigabytes. So whenever you're thinking about these things, they seem small sort of on the front end, but if you think about a website at scale, you saving that few bytes on every single page is actually going to save the user in data. So if they're on a mobile connection and they have to pay for everything that they download, which is the case for a lot of people in the world, and then also speed, it's just faster to download, and it's one less thing, and it doesn't add to confusion. So if you can save in that area and it's not going to make things more confusing for other developers, you might as well just save in those instances. So we'll just do IMG, and then inside of our folder, I'm just going to paste this. So Control V, I'm just going to paste in our Favicon, and I need to go ahead and rename it. I'm just going to say favicon.png. Okay, so it's a PNG file. I don't know if I need, do I need that? I don't know if I need that extension or not. So we'll go ahead in here, and we need to create a link. So just like we did here, we set a path to our file here. It's been reflected up here. You can see our IMG folder, and our favicon.png is in here. If we click on there, we can see it. It doesn't, we use PNG because it doesn't have a background to it. If you want a white background, you can do a JPEG. You'll save as far as how many bytes this is. So this is 1.69 kilobytes. If this was a JPEG, it would be significantly smaller. But it would also have a white background to it, so, or a colored background, or whatever you wanted. It doesn't do transparency with JPEG. So only PNG or SVG will do a transparent background, which you could use in SVG as well, and you could save it as SVG, and it would probably be a little bit smaller, but also a little bit more difficult if you don't know how to use SVG. So maybe something we can cover in a later video. Alright, so we're going to use a similar sort of file path, but instead of going straight to the file, we need to do the folder first. So if you're familiar at all with computers, you put the folder name and then a / and then the file name. So this is our path to get to the Favicon image. We're starting here at my website. We're going into the IMG folder, and then inside that folder, which is the /, so inside that folder is going to be favicon.png. So when we save and we go and we reload our index page, you can see that that changed right here. So our icon shows up, and just to let you know that it actually is what we did, if we go to our about, oh, do I have it on the about page too? I did before. Maybe it's still just showing up. No, I don't know. Maybe it just gets loaded in all the way. I'm not sure. So that's nice that we got it on the about page as well. Okay, we can get rid of Apple. Alright, so now we have our Favicon and it is inserted into our website. It could be that it's a caching sort of thing. So if we open up in incognito, we see it here. And then if we go to about, no, still shows up. So that's nice. So it's carrying it over, it looks like, from one page to the next, maybe because it's on the index page. So that's nice. I didn't know that that would be a feature. So now we've added our Favicon, and we've added our ability to do a responsive design with this site. We've added a description, we've added the author name, and we've added the title of the page. We also have our character set that will basically accept all of the languages, and we've connected our style sheet to this section. I'm trying to think if there was another. Okay, there's one more thing that I want to show you, and that's how to link to a third-party site. So sometimes you want to do this. The main ones that I would do would be for Google Fonts or for Adobe Fonts if you wanted to bring in some web fonts into your website to give you more choices and basically just make better and nicer typography. You would use a link in the head tag in order to connect those, and I'll show you that. And then also if you want to bring in any third-party libraries for JavaScript or something like that, they might require that you put some CSS into the head section. They'll probably tell you that link to the head section, or copy this code and put it into the head section. So the first one I want to show you is probably one that you're going to do very commonly, and it's going to be google.com/fonts. And let's say we just want to add we'll just add something that we're going to know. So we'll add this one, Chelsea Market. We're going to select this style. Okay, so it puts it over here. Now Google Fonts has changed their layout and everything just a little bit from what I've always been accustomed to. But we have our family selected over here, and we're going to embed this. And when it embeds, you can see that it gives us this HTML link. Now we can take this link and we can put it straight into the head section. That's the intention of this link. This one here is for CSS. We could also copy this and put it straight into our straight into our head section, because we can use the style tag instead of linking to a style.css, or we can do both. We can link to a style sheet And we can have what we call inline styles, which is, there's a style tag, HTML tag with our CSS styles in it. That's not what we're going to do this time. We'll just do the link. The advantage of doing it this way, I don't know that there's an advantage necessarily, because it's doing the same thing. It has to go out. It has to import this into the website from the Google server. To me, the only advantage would be to download the entire family to your machine, take those files, copy them into your website. So have a fonts folder and put all of your fonts inside there, and then reference that folder from your head section. That's the fastest way, and that's the way that you can guarantee that people are going to be able to see the fonts that you want, because going from one file to another inside of your file structure is a lot faster than going out to another website somewhere in the world and then bringing that data back. So if you want speed, or let's say, I know that if you're building sites that you want people in China or some other restricted countries who they have a lot of restrictions on their web access, Google doesn't work. Nothing Google really works in China. So using Google fonts in China means that because the user can't go out to the Google servers, that's blocked, that they're not going to be able to get the Google font. So it's always going to be the fallback font. So you have to find some way around that. And one way is to just deliver your fonts straight from your website. So you download them, put them into a fonts folder, and then you just link within your website structure to the fonts that you want. It's faster anyway, but it is also a way to get around that sort of restriction on Google websites. All right, so we're just going to copy this like this. And we're going to come in here, and I'm just going to paste that in just like that. And now you're connected to Google Fonts, and the family that we've chosen is Chelsea Market. And this is stuff that you don't necessarily need to know about right now. It has to do with typography on the web. And you can see that this is a style sheet that we're connecting to. Okay, so same sort of relationship that our style sheet has. And then it also tells you in the CSS you need to specify this particular rule or property value pair in the CSS. So let's just copy that, Control C, and then we'll come back to our style.css, and I'm just going to well, we need to attach that to something, so let's do our body. If you don't know much CSS at this point, it's okay. You do the tag name. I'm just going to add this to the entire body, so the entire document is going to get this rule, and then I'm going to paste that in there like that, and then save it. And when we refresh, we should see, you can see what the Google font looks like, and then this is what our font looks like. Hopefully it will connect and make the change for us. Okay, so now you can see that it's using the new font from Google Fonts. It's the same one, right? And you can always double check that by looking at your page source. You can see that this has all been swapped in, and when you look here, you can see that our body is taking on this new font. And if you look in the developer tools, which is under the inspect, and you click on the text, oh, it's under body, you'll see that it's been applied. So this Chelsea Market font has been applied to it. If you take it off, you can see that it reverts back to the original, which is just a serif font face. Okay, so that is a pretty cool and very common thing that you're going to do. Adobe Fonts has recently changed their web their web font interface, I guess. And they also have links like this now. So you'll choose which, well, I guess I can show you. You'll basically choose which fonts that you want, and then it'll be put into a web, what they call a web something. Let's see if I'll be able to get in. This is my personal account. I typically use Adobe fonts for work, but they have these things called web projects. So like here's a web project that I have, and you can see here that whenever you want to include this and embed it, that you take this, you copy the code into the head tag of your HTML. So exact same process of what you do with Google Fonts, and then inside of here they give you how to make that call in the CSS. So instead of this, you would have this. The font family would be Myriad Pro and sans serif as a backup font, and then you would put that in there. And then inside of here, you can add fonts to a web project. So let's say we want to add this serif font. You just come in. It's not available to me, but if it were available, it would give you an option to add this to a web project. You choose the project that you want to add it to the project, and then it will automatically update because that project link is in the head document or the head of your page, and so it'll automatically add that new font into your web project. So it's pretty cool. Same, I'm not sure that the same goes for Google. With Google, you're gonna have to choose your fonts. If you want to add a font, it will add it here, and you'll just have to copy and replace. You'll just have to replace this right here. Now, if you notice that this is only on the index page, we don't have that on our about page, and I'm curious to see if that will also transfer over. It should not. Okay, so on our about page, what we have is this, right? So our font family is being called with Chelsea Market, but it's not finding the reference to Chelsea Market because it doesn't have a reference to our Google fonts on the about page, only on the index page. So when that happens, you can see that it goes to the next available font choice, which our very last one should be our backup. It's a generic sans serif, serif, cursive, monotype, whatever it is. That's going to be our fallback, our last fallback. And then the default cursive font is Comic Sans for this browser. So we wind up with Comic Sans because it can't find Chelsea Market. And the moment that we take this and we copy it and we put it over here on our about page and save, so the moment we put that reference in that link, now you see that it changes to our Chelsea Market and not Comic Sans. So that is adding fonts to your head section. And I'm going to show you one more because I really like to use it. But a font, maybe Font Awesome or something like that is what you like to use if you want to add icons to your website. I like to use one that's called Material Design Iconic Fonts. I really like the Material Design fonts. They seem to fit with my general style. And so this has lots of different fonts that you can choose, and you can see that you can add them just by adding this I tag, which is a type of HTML tag. But you can add them into your application or your website. But on their Getting Started page, you can see that they also have a way for you to just connect to a third-party website. So whether this is a library for JavaScript or this is some sort of bootstrap or some framework for CSS or whatever it is, we add it the same way. So we just copy this link code, and we go back to our code and we put it in here. And now it's in here. You see the same thing. It's a relationship of style sheet, so that the browser knows how to handle everything. It's going to go off to this URL, and it's going to get this CSS file. So it's just all this .min.css. .min means it's been minified, so it's like all the code is kind of scrunched together. It's really hard to read, but it makes the file size smaller, which is good. Because you don't really need to read it. Once it gets onto the server, you don't really need to read that file. And the browser inspector tools will allow you to make it pretty anyway, so that it'll restructure the file just like you would normally write it, so it's readable. So it's not that big a deal that you can't read it once the file is minified. And then we need to come in and get an icon. Let's just do Amazon, because that's a one that lots of people know, and we'll just copy that. We'll come to our page, and we're just going to put that in here like this, and this should show up because it's connected to our what do they call them? They call them icon fonts. So when we click here, we can see that our icon font shows up. So this is Amazon, right? And if we did Twitch, then that also would show up. Okay, so we can add these fonts anywhere in the HTML, or through JavaScript we can add them into the code. So icon fonts can be very powerful. We can deal with them just like pieces of HTML. So we can use CSS on them and change their colors, and we can make them do things or animate or grow and shrink or whatever we want to do. They have the same block type properties. They're inline elements, so just like a link, and we can turn them into links. We can do a lot of things with them. So font icons are pretty powerful, and they don't require there's one download of the file, and you can kind of cache that file, unlike having to go out and get an image each time. But a lot of people don't like font icons. They've kind of gotten a bad name because of the SVG sort of revolution. The SVGs are way smaller. What was the last thing I wanted to show? There are other options here. Oh, if we go to our home page, to our index page, and we refresh, you can see that nothing is happening on this page because we haven't included all this stuff. Even if we take these and we include them on our home page, then you're not going to see anything, and you can see that they've showed up here, but because we haven't actually connected to that CSS file, that third-party file in the head section, it doesn't do anything. So our HTML is looking for something, but it's not finding it because we're not connected. But the second that we connect, then those icons will show up on our page. So you can see that now they're showing up because we're connected to that library through that call in the head section, the link. So just some common things that we do, especially in 2020. These are really baseline things that you're going to do in a lot of different projects. Bringing in fonts, bringing in icons, bringing in scripts. It's all the same thing. We could have just as easily brought this JavaScript right here. We could have put this up here as well. And so our app.js has a little, actually we could do like that, and then when we call it, it gives us this alert on the page load, and that's because it's actually the JavaScript is being called in the head section. Let's see if we look at our it's going to show. Okay, so it waits until you clear that alert, but it actually shows our JavaScript has loaded into the page. So you can do that. You can do that from the head section as well. But again, like in the last video about how to set up the web page, if you put it in the head section and for some reason this chokes, it basically kills the rest of the web page. And if you don't need this to happen, then you shouldn't put it in the head section. If you need something to happen through JavaScript before you get to the HTML, then you just need to put that in the head section, because it needs to be done. It reads the page and executes the code top to bottom, left to right. So if you need this to happen before any of this happens, then you need to put it in the head section. If all this can be downloaded first and then the JavaScript can be downloaded, you should wait and put it at the end, just like we did before. So we put it right before the body, right before the ending body tag. That way all of our content is loaded. All that's left is to close these two things out, and then it loads the JavaScript. That way, if all of this stuff gets loaded, the site is theoretically still usable, but maybe the interactions don't work very well, in which case you need to make sure that you have fallbacks for those interactions, just in case the JavaScript fails. Okay, I think that's good for this video. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comment section below. Maybe it feels like belaboring the point with some of these things, but the head section is actually a very important part of the website. And I don't know when people are learning web development these days if they're learning about the head section or the possibilities or what can go into the head section or what is it and why do we even use it. But it's a really important part, even though it's data that you're mostly not going to be able to see on the web page. So there's not a lot of payoff necessarily that you can see, but trust me, if you neglect some of these things, it won't be as good. Your website won't be as performant, and you won't be able to use the kinds of tools that modern web developers are using. So learn to use the head section. Don't be scared of it. It's just metadata. It's things that are on the page, but you can't see them. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please click the subscribe button. And if you click the bell notification, you'll get notifications whenever I make new videos. It's usually 1 or 2 a week. And if my videos are free, so if you want to pay it forward, then click the like button. It's really easy. And it doesn't seem like much on your end, but every time someone clicks the like button, the YouTube algorithm loves it and says, hey, this guy's got good content and maybe more people should see this. So if you think more people should see it too, then either share it or click the like button or both. And that really helps me, because I'm only a one-man band. I can only do so much, but you can help a lot. I think that's it. You can follow me on Twitter if you want, at Brian Hafferkamp, and happy to connect with you there if you have questions about other things. There's a community tab on my YouTube channel, so feel free to reach out there as well. Sometimes post things or polls and things like that in there. And if you're a subscriber, you'll get those posts as well. I think that's it for now. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again next time.